And then when did your love for it begin?
I've always loved watching puppetry. When I was a kid, about in fifth grade, I was about 10 years old, I got to see Bill Baird, who was a wonderful puppeteer and marionette artist in New York City, do a show out where I lived in the Midwest. I never thought of it as a career. I just loved the animation, and I immediately identified with all the puppets. And it stood like that. I didn't think anything more about it until 1975 in New York City. I was a single parent living with my daughter, Elisa, who at the age of 2, from 2 to age 7, became a child on the TV show Sesame Street. And I got to meet all the staff. I got to be a stage mom, which I loved doing. But because I was a single parent and I was working at the American Indian Community House at the time and trying to be a singer in New York at the same time, I was afraid to ask anybody if I could do anything or get an internship, because I thought I wouldn't be able to afford it, or I'd be dragging my child around at all different kinds of hours and stuff. And I was too timid. So I missed a really fabulous opportunity. And it wasn't until I was 60 years old that I realized the communicative power that puppetry has. And that's when I started to become a puppeteer. And in 1964, began to learn ventriloquism.
Well, tell us a little bit about your journey or your story as a creative artist.
Well, most vets start when they're about 8 years old, at least the guys I've met, like Jeff Dunham and Terry Fader and Jay Johnson and all the guys who are the most well-known, at least in this country. But I started at 64, so I had a lot of catching up to do. But my husband and I, when I was 64, started a small, not for-profit puppet company, because I had a puppet ministry in my local church. And I had, in 1960, started to learn puppetry. So for about 4 years, I did that. And then we realized as we were getting on toward age 65 that carrying all of our equipment around to our venues was really wearing us out. And I took a class in ventriloquism, and I loved it, because for the first time in my life, I realized every talent and gift and skill that I've been given by our Creator, I could use in ventriloquism. I was singing, I could talk, I could be an actor for 2 or 3, depending on how many puppets I was using at the same time. So I started learning ventriloquism and just got addicted to it. And that's what I'm still doing today at age 78. I was really in love with being able to use all these things that I'd put together all these years and didn't know what to do with, and never had a really great career at any of them until they all came together in ventriloquism. And my husband and I have shows we do regionally. We don't travel nationally. And most of our shows are focused on character development, how to help people develop their own characters better, to remember to be kind to others, to remember how to treat one another so that we can be good neighbors. And we do that. We have shows that we do on bullying and school safety that we take to elementary schools. And it's sponsored by the ARC of Dauphin County. There are many ARCs, the ARCs throughout this country that work with people who are disabled. And disabled with emotional disabilities, with intellectual disabilities, and physical disabilities. Many people are afraid of them. So our shows help kids particularly to understand who these folks really are, what their lives are kind of like with our great big puppets. And hopefully it keeps the kids from it helps them to be friends with people who they might not ever become a friend with. We do that during the academic year. And then the rest of our shows are primarily for churches throughout the region, where we give biblical themed shows. And again, they're shows on character development, how to live and be kind and loving to one another, how to have a really good relationship, because we have to be reminded of that every day. I do, at least. And then we also do a lot of shows for senior communities, like the one my husband Steve and I live in now. And it just helps people to smile, to laugh, to get a few moments of enjoyment, and sometimes for many days that are really lonesome. but we get great joy out of it. I'm sure we receive a lot more than we're able to give.
So Dotti, tell us, what is the best part of your work?
Oh gosh, I think live performance with a message that's got truth in it and it's delivered in an engaging and entertaining way, that afterwards, after the shows are over, someone comes up and tells me something positive that they learned or are going to take home and talk with their family about. And it gives them an idea for some kids who might want to become puppeteers. So just giving those messages in a way that gives people something to take home and chew on with their families. So it's not just for one age level, everybody can get involved. Whether it's the songs I'm singing or whether it's what the puppets are saying and doing. And it's a wonderful thing. I've learned with this little profession that the song and laughter and just entertainment is good medicine for the soul. Mm. And all of us need to be medicated with that, if not every day, almost every day.
I'd like to maybe do a reflection. And the test here is, if you were to have a conversation with your younger self, what would your advice be? Or what would you say to your younger self?
Seize the opportunities to learn and to explore the dream career that you really believe your imagination is leading you to. If you're wrong, but you get a great adventure in the meantime. But sometimes, like for me, if I had started in 1975, I would have been able to do something that I got asked to do a couple of weeks ago. A couple of weeks ago, Sesame's workshop, which is Sesame, the people who create Sesame Street, called me and asked me if I wanted to audition to be a puppeteer on Sesame Street. That would have just made me die with joy when I was my daughter's parent when she was age 2 in 1975. It was too late for me now. I had missed that great opportunity. I can't get up and down on my knees as I should as a working puppeteer, which a lot of puppeteers have to do. Can't do it anymore. My memory's not as good as it was. I don't memorize script as fast. My age is declining my use of my abilities, but I'm still going to do it until it's time for me to walk into the spirit world anyway. So don't miss out on those opportunities. Seize them. Ask people for help. Say, show me give me some names of mentors that I can contact who could teach me what they know. Because what I do all the time to this very day is practice, practice, practice. Watch every wonderful ventriloquist that I can find either on YouTube or go to concerts or something and talk with them afterwards if I can. Because we keep learning until the day we die, and it enhances our art. Now, am I an artist? I don't know. Most people think ventriloquism is not an art. Maybe it's a craft at best, as Jay Johnson, a ventriloquist, says. And he's right. But again, it's the art of communication is something we learn to develop through our lives. And that's what I'm doing in ventriloquism.
Dotti, as you know, is that we have experienced a traumatic pandemic, and it has impacted many artists and creatives.
Yeah.
So my question to you is that, can you talk about how the pandemic may have affected your craft or your art form, your being a creative during this period?
In some ways, it's been fabulous. I've had the healthiest winter I have had in years, wearing masks and gloves. I have COPD. I run out of air. I get pneumonia and colds and flu very easily, but not in 2020. So I'm going to continue wearing my masks and stuff into the next years of my days because I learned a lesson about that. And 2019 was an extremely busy show year for us. We had about 6 shows a week in December, especially. And it wore me out and I got very sick. I'm not going to let that happen again. It showed me how to pace my work. It's also given me time to write and to redirect our little company's focus on how we want to continue on in the future, because we know we're going to have to slow down. And that's okay too. But I'm going to continue doing my best with my ventriloquism to bridge communication gaps between peoples and work on trying to get some shows together that help people to know what it's like as a Native American person and a person of color in this America in 2021 and beyond, especially in the urban areas. And those of us who are urban and haven't lived on the reservation, because we are still some of the most invisible people in this country. So I want kids in school and adults and families to remember that we are still alive and growing and contribute a great deal to this country. And I'm going to do, I hope to do some projects on eradicating just the fears and stereotyping of one another that we're so prone to doing in our human lives.
So as you look towards the future, what's next in your journey?
Well, creating some of these shows that I just mentioned. It's going to take me a lot of work. Got my puppet family here, my little puppety grandson, great-grandson, TJ. He's Trenton Jr., my real grandson's image. And this is Charlie Little Big Mouth, my Cheyenne puppety nephew. And this is Helen Highwater, my granny, puppety granny Helen. They live in Oklahoma with my Cheyenne people. My daughter is Cheyenne and African American, and my African American family and I and Cheyenne family all want to integrate all these things together. And this is Glork, by the way. Glork is an alien. He's learning what it's like being here on Earth. So I want to incorporate him into some of the shows to get his observation of what he sees with human beings and what he can teach us.
Well, if our audience wanted to get in contact with you, Dotti, what is the best way they can do that?
They can look on my website, which is puppeteandstoryworks.com on the web. I don't keep up with my Facebook page as much as I should, so probably the website, or they can call me at, is it okay to give the phone number?
Sure.
Okay, at 717-664-6486. That's the easiest number to reach me, because as an old person, I do not carry my cell phone around with me all the time.
Would you repeat that number?
717-664-6486. And you guys can join me on the Creatives Everywhere YouTube channel. Because just remember, it's never too late to follow your creative dream.